Hi, this is Bruce with Big Fish Software again, and this video we're going to look at the new test set features that we added to the version 4.0. So let's just go in and show you what we got. What I'm going to do, let's go into the test tab. So we haven't gone into that yet in the other videos. And when you go in here, you'll see a number of different categories for the different test sets. And these categories, we just created some kind of starter categories for you. Feel free to go to settings and go to the test set categories and delete anything you don't want. So let's just delete some of these. We'll have a speeds, strategy, strength. You can edit the ones that are here, edit the names on them, or you can create new ones, just like you can in the rest of the application. So I'm just going to have those three test set categories. Now, what I want to do when I'm on the test tab, there's actually a number of different ways that you can run tests. So I'm going to try to take you through all these different options. So first, if I'm on this test page, you'll see that I am looking at all the tests that have been run in the current season. Okay, and we don't have any yet. So let's go out and create a test. So I'm going to click on the plus sign here, and you have an option. Well, do I want to add a new test set category? Do I want to add a new test? So we'll add a new test. And so it's going to ask me what this test is. Okay, so what test set category is it in? And we'll say this is a speed category. And then what is my test set? Well, I'm going to do, let's say, 10 100s, and I can give it a description: free from blocks. And I'm going to put in the date that I'm going to run the test. So let's say I'm just going to run that today, so I'll keep it today's date. So we'll save that. And now I have a test set created. So I can go in, and the little eye icon will let you edit the information about that. I don't have any swimmers in my test yet. So there's not really much to look at here. We'll look at that again in a minute, but right now this test is empty. So we need to run this test. So that's what the little stopwatch icon is for. So I'm going to click on that. And you see that you have your test, and you have a number of different heats set up. So what we need to do first is go in and add swimmers to this test. So we can scroll down here to the bottom to the unseated section, and what I need to do is find a group, and I know my gold distance group has some swimmers in it. I'm going to find a group that has some swimmers, and I can take and put these swimmers in different heats. So I can do that either by dragging the little bar icon up here. So let's put Jim in heat 1. Or what I can do is I can just double click, and when I double click, it's going to move the swimmer to the heat indicated down here. So let's put John in heat 2, and we'll put Roger in heat 3. So we just double click, just select which heat we want, double click, and it will move them up into those heats. So now this is a manual set. It's not tied to a workout. It's not running through the pace clock. I'll show you that a little bit later. So we can manually start. So when Jim's ready to start his first 100, I can just click the start button. And there's a little audio cue there and a click there that you clicked on that start button. Now let's say 10 seconds later, John starts, and it may not be exactly 10 seconds, but we'll click the start button when we start heat 2. All right. And then as time goes along, maybe another 10 seconds or so, we're ready to start heat 3. So we just click start heat 3. So now, once the clock is running, I can go and take splits for the swimmers. So let's grab a split at the 50. So Jim was 31 seconds at the 50, let's say. John's a bit quicker. He's coming in at 28 seconds, 26 seconds. And then Roger is coming along, and he's getting ready for his 50 split. So we just click on that, and we capture his split. And now we're getting close to the end of the 100, so I'm going to get ready to stop the swimmers when they come into the wall. So Jim comes in. I stop that. Now you notice that Jim was the only swimmer in that heat. There's no more clocks running in that heat, so it automatically says, oh, "Okay, well, you're ready to start repeat 2 whenever it's time." It automatically resets your start button there. So ideally, you'll never have to press the stop clock button. You'll just stop all the swimmers as they come in, and then it will automatically be ready to start the next repeat. Okay, so it's captured the first heat. So we got Jim's time, we got John's time, we got Roger's time. It shows the split, the last split value here. Now, if I want to get a little more detail about that, I can click on the information sign and see that, okay, I'm doing 10 100s. I can put notes related to Jim Smith's, this test for Jim Smith, and say, Jim looked tired today. I can add some notes for him. But you see that the first repeat here, he did a 103.9, and I captured a split of the first 50 at 31.9. Now I can actually manually change these. So if something was wrong, I can manually change and say, well, he really came in at 103.6. I can update that value. I can also add or remove splits from this list by swipe deleting to delete or edit, or as I say, I can add new splits, and it automatically defaults to 30 seconds after the previous split, so you don't get a whole bunch of splits that have zeros in them. So let me just delete some of these items here. Keep that as it is. So we're all done. So you see that it updated the 103.6. So that was for his first heat. Now let's go through and start another one. And I'm not going to wait quite as long to start the different swimmers here. And we'll do the third one. And I'm also not going to wait very long to do the splits and to stop it. So we'll get splits on everybody. And now let's go and stop that test. So now you see that as we get more than one repeat, we change the display a little bit here. So it'll show you the last 100 that they did. But it'll also break out the summary information. You'll see the average, the fastest 100, the slowest 100. And these will be updated as you're going through this test set. So it gives you a little bit more summary information. Once again, I can go into the edit screen and modify this and say, well, he really did a 121.2 or 120.2 here. So I can change that, and I can change the split, and then you see everything is recalculated. So that's basically capturing and running a manual test set. This little clipboard here also, if you want to do a quick note, as the thing is running, you don't want to jump out of the whole screen. You can just click on that, enter your note, and then that will be saved with the test. Okay. Now, one other thing of note here is the reset button. So if I've run some tests, so you see that we've all run two repeats for this swimmer, I may want to reset the clock back. And I can do that in two ways. I can either delete the last set So or the last repeat, and that will take on and change these all back to start at repeat 2. So it deletes the second repeat, or I can delete all of them and start over from scratch. So let's just delete the last repeat. You see, now we're back with the summary information just from the first one, and we're ready to start the second repeat. Okay. Now, one other thing that's important about this is the save button. So if I cancel out of the set, it's not going to save it. So this is a little bit different than some pieces of the application or some parts of the application where things are automatically saved. In this case, once you run a test, if you're happy with the results, you want to save them, just click the save button. As I say, the cancel button will give you a warning so that you don't lose anything. So you just click the save button. And now we have that test set. And I can go in and look at the information. I can sort by time. I can sort by name. And you see that the information. I can open up the details about any given test and modify them if I need to. Or I can actually, from here, I can actually go through and say, well, you know, they only did 2, and actually they only did 100. So let me, I'm going to change that back to 100 and save that, because that's a little bit more accurate. And once again, it gives me a warning, make sure I'm not losing anything. It's going to delete anything I may have recorded after the first repeat. And it should say after the first repeat. So that will save that information, and now we have that test set complete. So that's running a test set just manually, creating a test and running it. Now the other things we can do, I'm sorry, we're going to go back to the workouts here. We can actually associate a test with a set. So let me just add a quick 200 on the 50. We'll save that. Oops. I'll just call this warm up. Just so that you can see how this looks, and I'm going to move the warm up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this, I'm going to do a quick warm-up, and then the test set is going to be this 1050s freestyle. So I'm going to click on the @ sign here, and you notice at the bottom I have a test set option, and I can choose what kind of set it is, what group this is going to be in. So I'm going to make it my speed group, or my speed test. Okay, and by doing that, when you run this workout through the pace clock, it will actually stop the pace clock and ask you to set up the test information. And I'll show you that in a minute. One thing to point out, though, is that I cannot do test sets if I have an alternate set. Okay, so if I have an alternate, if I have 2 different times, I can't do a test set on it. We really only want a primary set that we're running the alternates on. And well, you can do it with the adjust interval, but I don't know if that really would make sense too often. So now I've marked this as a speed test, and we'll save that. And you see that it indicates that it's a test set by having the little stopwatch icon here. And you can, once again, if you want to manually run this, click on the stopwatch. The only difference here is that down at the bottom, you see that it preloaded the workout, or the athletes in this test. And it did that because this workout is associated with the goal distance group. So when I'm running my test, it will automatically assume that the swimmers in the test are going to be from the goal distance group. Now, if they're not, or let's say I add Jim Smith and John Williams, but you know, maybe I have some other groups there. I think my bronze group has some swimmers in it, so I'm going to select that. So I can actually go and you see how John and Jim are still selected from the gold group, but I can also add Bill and Joan from the bronze group. So it will default to the group that's associated with the workout, but then you can modify that. And if I do that, and save that information, it's going to come back when I pull it back up. Okay, so you don't have to go through that every time. Now, so that's manually running it associated to a test or to a workout. But the final way to run it is through the pace clock. So if we click on this, you see that we'll go through, and let's say I start from the beginning, and I'll just take you through that. You'll see that we have the little stopwatch icon here, and I can click on that, and that will let me modify. You notice that I can modify the heats. So as my warm-up is running, I'm modifying the heats, but it doesn't let me start it. I don't have any start buttons or anything. I didn't actually change anything on that. But what will happen is, so I have the start button here, or the button that will let me set up the heats and all, and we save that. And what will happen is when the workout gets to this set, and I'm just going to start from that set, you'll see that in the background it paused the clock, and now I have an option to go off and actually start this test. And when I do that, you notice that there's just one start test button. And that's because when you're running through the pace clock, we're assuming that the heats are automatically going to be sent off at a certain interval. You don't have to manually start each heat. And the interval is going to be the default interval for the pace clock setting. So our default interval was 7 seconds. I can change that, and let's say we make that 10 seconds here. So what will happen when I start this test, it will start the pace clock running, and it will show me the clock buttons for heat 1. After 10 seconds, it's going to start heat 2 and show me the buttons for that. So let's just go through and do that. And you see the countdown here. So it's 6 seconds, 5, 4. It's going to start heat 2. But you can see as we're running through this, I get the same split and stop options. It's just that I don't have to manually, and let's just, we'll stop them here and here. I don't have to manually start each heat. Stop that. And you see how now what's happening is it's continuing to run the pace clock, okay, because we're still on 1 of 10, but the interval is 1:30. So it's going to continue to run this, and once it gets to 1:30 and we start the next set, it's going to change these back into the start or split and stop buttons. So we'll just wait a little bit. And as you can see, we have the same options here for notes. On this swimmer, you can go in and look at the details and modify those as you're going along if something didn't come out right. Okay, so in 15 seconds, it's going to start the next interval. Now, one point is if you have a really tight interval and the swimmers are just barely making it, it will pause a couple of seconds, pauses 3 seconds at the end of the last interval, so you don't click on the stop too early, so you don't click a bad time from a previous interval. So there's that little delay there. So we stop that, and you see that that this one started 10 seconds after. So it's kind of the nice thing is if you're running through with the pace clock, it keeps the pace clock, and you can't see it here, but if you have an external monitor, you'd be able to see the pace clock running in the background or on the secondary display. I can also pause this on the next repeat And you notice that the clocks still keep going. But what will happen is when it gets to the 1:30 again, it's going to pause that and then wait for me to proceed before it goes on. So I may want to give the swimmers a little bit more rest before the next repeat or whatever. It doesn't stop the clocks that are currently running, because it assumes those swimmers are still in the water and still completing the last repeat, but it will wait at the interval. So we'll just wait here for a second and show you that that is paused now. Okay, so I can resume that, and we'll wait till this one becomes paused. Okay, so now they're paused, and you notice the pace clock in the background is paused also. It's not currently running anymore. So when I'm ready, done talking to the swimmers, and ready to start the first heat again, I hit resume, and we're off and running. So let's, I'm just going to stop these clocks here, and we want to save that. Once again, it doesn't save the changes. Test set's not complete. Sure you want to save and exit? Yeah. Okay. Because I only did 2 of them, and I was scheduled to do 10. So it just verifies that I want to do that. So a couple different ways to run test sets. Let's exit back out. And then let me just go back to the test set screen. So now that I have some test sets, and I don't know why that last one didn't show up. I'll have to look into that issue. Maybe it didn't save it completely because it was running through the pace clock. Oh, there it is. Just didn't refresh the screen. So I have my test sets in. So the other thing about test sets that we want to point out is this action icon down here. Oh, once again, just like the workouts, you have to select what you want to do. Okay, do I want to delete the selected test sets? Do I want to email them out? So I can choose the email option, and you see that the summary information for those test sets are included, and you see that it groups it by swimmer. So Bill Smith only did the one test set, the 1050s, where Jim Smith did the 1050s and the 100. So you see that all the selected tests are grouped by the swimmer. Do I want to email or create a PDF file? And once again, very similar manner of grouping the athletes or all the tests for the athletes together. Or I can create an HTML or a CSV file, so I can create a file that I can pull into a spreadsheet. And then finally, the other option on all these report options is there's a lot of detail information if you include splits. So if you check this include details in reports and then do a PDF, for example, you'll see much more detail about, in this case, because there are multiple sets, you see each one. So the first one was, the first 50 was on the 16 seconds, next one on 105, and so forth. So you see a little bit more detail about the what was run. So that is pretty much test sets, and I hope you find that useful and can make use and use the reporting features to get more information about your swimmers. Thanks.